In the nations we call home, an illness has taken hold. a spiritual poison infecting us all.
White people, am I right?
Damn white people are pissy about racism.
A population taught to hate itself and assist in its own demise.
When we say we want to kill whitey, we don't really mean we want to kill whitey, we do.
Some white people may have to die. I'm confused on why that's so controversial.
A people lost in an electronic dream, bereft of meaning and enslaved by guilt.
The only way that you should ever actually be in front of a black king is on all fours, and that all black men should know that they are kings.
Yes, goddess.
You have to give all these brothers peace if you're really sorry. Go back down, come on. Do as you told, man. Go on, bow back down, man. This is a good white man, man. This is right. Understand.
What happens when we no longer care? When we allow ourselves to be dominated by our victimizers? Our most innocent pay the price. And what happens when they finally stand up? The most important story for the 21st century, in a time when we shall re-enter history, when we shall create a new world in our image, and when we shall finally reawaken and become heroes. Crucible, Child Patriot, American Victory by Jason Köhne.
I might be far gone, I don't know. I'm about to tell what I know is so. Got the reason, got a feel of the core. Your excuses just block the road. I
They are not opposing white supremacy. They are not opposing white nationalism. They are not opposing white separatism. They are opposing white identity. They are opposing white people.
How is the mic sound? We are rolling and going free, ladies and gentlemen. Is everything working fine? Can you see me okay? Is Washington, D.C. in the background as it should be? Great to see everybody here tonight on a roll-in that is kind of an important thing. And I'm glad that even though we don't necessarily have a lot of time tonight, I don't necessarily have a lot of time, that it's something that we're talking about, because this is an issue and a problem that is omnipresent. This baseless bravado, this posturing. Very good sound, says Rowan. Thank you so much. Great to see you. Tony giving me sounds okay. Sound audio sounds good to me, says the great Franklin. Thank you, good brother. Dan says it's perfect. Corbo says a good evening, Jason. A big hello to everybody this evening. If you have any questions or comments over the course of this roll-in going free, please tag me on either YouTube, Odyssey, or DLive as No Wine Guilt. You may also financially gift at Entropy. You may also ask questions there, I should say, on the question widget, affectionately known as the Tall Kevin widget. You may financially gift at Odyssey. Both of those platforms are 15%, or Cash App, which is zero. Doesn't cost you anything. So, looks like the video, everything's coming through okay. A cozy crew, as we always have here, of the people who want to do something in the world and make a difference in the world, rather than ones who want to just play at thought revolution, rather than those who just want to hear the doom out there in the world and feel like they're doing something and maybe have their entertainer on the screen in front of them tell them that we did it, we're back, we're so back, and then you feel like you've accomplished something, and really you're doing nothing. You're pedaling without a chain. You're not even pedaling, and you're just watching other people on bicycles. You're in the stands. So that's how pathetic that is. And there need to be people in the world who actually engage in the work. And it's one of those things when you realize that there's work to be done. There's work on yourself to be done. Very real work. As a very short aside, it's so frustrating to hear people be doubtful about the Go Free method, which is a very tangible thing. And yet they'll purchase the most zany shit out there possible that you can imagine. Like some method to grow taller, but they're dubious on the whole Go Free method question. They will pay some motivational speaker $1,500 to hear Aesop's fables repackaged with a laser light show. And then they have a couple of days of high from the excitement, and then but they're doubtful about. I mean, seriously. So the objections are, really it comes down to the objections are just people who are, here's my excuse to do nothing. Here's my excuse to continue to do nothing and just hope. We got to get rid of hope. Hope in its proper place is a powerful tool to a human being. But it's not just put in its proper place. It's used everywhere. And it is used as an excuse to do nothing. I was speaking with First Last about this. And the Go Free method, to a degree, well, it completely destroys this fraudulent hope, this hope that's used to do nothing in the world about how bad things are and how quickly they're getting worse. Just hope. I just hope that some politician comes along. If only a billionaire would come along. And then they just go out and they want to shop more and they just want to not think about it and they just want to white flight to a new neighborhood and then they'll just hope some more. And there's a lot of hope in this sinful hope in the Patriot movement. And we can call them nationalists of various stripes. And of course, in America, conservative people, which are good people. But you see a lot of this hope as an excuse to do nothing. Putting up a Donald Trump flag is not doing something. It's great to be excited and to put up your team's pennant, but that's all you're doing. So, as a consequence of reality, there are going to be fewer people who actually want to dig in and change their environments, change themselves. And so, as a consequence, we have the best of the best that show up here. And yet, we have to cast a very wide net. We need to let people know that we are rolling in Go Free. I'm going to be talking about something very important. And I'm not a pretty young lady, nor am I some sort of weird incel. I'm a high IQ, athletic, fully functioning white man, the target of anti-whitism. And therefore, since the anti-whites dominate the West, I am the target of the West, as are many of you out there who are also men of the West now in pursuit of that glory. And perhaps you have been for a great many years now. And plaudits to you and your sacrifices and efforts. We're going to take a look also at, I would really like to engage with you all. So if you have something you want to push back, maybe you think Buddy Brown is who made this video. Maybe you think he and his fellow conservative Republican voters, nationalists, patriots, constitutionalists, etc. Maybe you think that they have it right by behaving the way that they do. I will articulate a position that their behavior is insidious, it's baseless, and more than insidious, it's pure poison for themselves and for their children and the few generations left if we don't recapture our destiny. So that's why I thought it was so important to take a look at it. And I see we have the young lady Ladybug. Hello to you, and Cool Papa and Robert and Unmapped Insights. Hello, great to see you all, Robert. Let's go ahead and get started, and then I'll talk with you all on. It's a short video, and I also have some comments that you all have made that I can speak to intermittently. Looks like Entropy is up running fine. And a big hello to everybody on the other platforms. As I say, it's great to see you all. Let's go ahead and share. See what we're looking for. Okay. Let's see about his sound. And please, you all give me some feedback on whether or not you can hear Mr. Brown. and me as well. So here we go. Archangel is here. Great to see you. So is Nathaniel Nelson. Great to see you, champ. Rafa, hello to you. And is that Sir Saramer? Go free ? Go free, not me, says, and then says, not me, says the natural slave. Yes, you can. I just saw your, Nate, I just saw your message before going live. Cool Papa says, I was hoping to get a quick summary of the Go Free thing or recommendation for one of your videos explaining. I'm literally brand new, fresh off the boat. Well, awesome, man. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And our folks will step up and help you out like you wouldn't believe. But the Go Free is, and I'm going to get into this video, so I'm just going to give you a really 90,000 foot view of it. It's a method. It's a practice. You implement it in your life. What does the practice consist of? Using concepts, and those concepts have a powerful effect on your thinking, not because they're magical, but because this is designed to be a psychological defense against the psychological warfare that's waged against us that we have named anti-whitism. That word has been in the dictionary for a very long time. It's been removed from many dictionaries because if you don't have the words to think in your own defense, you can't think in your own defense. Psychological warfare specialists for the anti-whites know this. So we are infected by anti-white ideas from birth to our graves, just like everything else you've learned, like to make a bed. If your parents said you have to make your bed when you leave your room, you'll feel that same pull to make your bed your whole life. Anti-white concepts work the same way on us. So we need to address them. You can't just say, I disagree with them. You need to address them. And it's a very simple, straightforward way that we do this. And nothing esoteric whatsoever. And then you use these concepts in the world around you because they serve the self-interests of people who are victims of anti-whitism. People will naturally adopt them. And that's why we refer to it as a curative contagion. There's nothing like this. There's been nothing like this before. And it's been working in Western countries all around the world. And even in ones that English is not the language. And so you can go over to, I and many others have made videos titled, What is Anti-White? And this is part of a competition. And it's over at, but maybe if we could get one of the mods to put the link in the live chat would be great. But it's one of Lovely Porges. What was it? Something Creators. And so all of the videos are there, and you can watch them. And I made one as well, and very straightforward. Tells you exactly what anti-whitism is, and some more information is provided. Like I share a couple of the other concepts that we have created and are promulgating, and that by way of the scientific method have proven to be successful. Kindred Creators, the great Franklin, has supplied the link. So if you go through there, you'll find the one from myself, and then you can watch the others. And thank you so much for being here, and looking forward to your personal growth. You'll see that you will be able to improve physically, mentally, and spiritually as you treat yourself for ideas that undermine your expression in every in every imaginable way. So there've been, the success stories are countless. We share them regularly, and we'll continue doing so. Ursa Major is here. You're doing it again right off the bat, talking negative to the small group of devoted friends who are here as usual. We are not the slackers you are describing. We are the loyal. Is that what I'm doing? I'm talking about, I specifically named the Patriots, the conservatives. Are you drinking tonight? Cool Papa says, thank you for explaining and thanks for the link. The conditioning is very deep. I can see it very well. Yeah, you would be, when you start to dig into the Go Free method, and it's a book, it's a manual. It's not meant to be read once and then put on a shelf. It's meant to be used again and again and written in. There are parts of the book for you to actually write in there your own thoughts. So check it out. And you could buy it you can acquire the book at Amazon. And you can also get it at nowhiteguiltcollectibles.com. And if you get it from there, then you get it with my signature. So, yes, we have a big problem. I guess, Ursa Major, do you consider yourself, rather than going free, do you consider yourself a patriot? Do you, and it's cool if you come here to hang out with everyone, even though you're not going free, if that's the case. But I mean, are you feeling like personally attacked because I'm pointing out this baseless bravado of patriots and conservatives? The great Fernal is here. Surimer is obviously just here to cause problems. Bob Whitaker was not first. Actually, I was first to use anti-white in 94. If he was using it before then no one knows. And I defended and supported Bob when he and his community of champions started using anti-white. I was also using anti-whitism. My sources, well, if you had been in service to white well-being, if you'd been in the white sympathetic sphere for the past 3 decades on the East Coast, then you would know exactly who and what I am. My face has been out there. I've been in and helped dozens of groups in IRL. So this, where's your source, is just a way to be an asshole. Where's your source? How about my life? How about my life is my source of being out there giving speeches on this, starting off with a leaflet about it. And then not only that, here, the best part about it is, and we'll get to this right now, is having these people throughout the white sympathetic sphere argue against me and my what in my position that we should call the anti-whites anti-white and say their ideology is anti-whitism, not call them communists, not call them Marxists, not call them the Frankfurt School, not call them all of this other garbage. Call them how they victimize us. And all these people against me. And so that's when, much later, it was 2009 or roughly, when Bob came up with this long rambling mantra, this just like discursive mantra. And at the very end of this discursive mantra, it says anti-white. And then they came up with a slogan, racism is a code word for anti-white. And I didn't like including the word racism in it, but it is what it is. And what happened there? Just like what was happening with me for all these years, people saying, no, you can't use that. You don't look good to the anti-white professors, and you don't, people in the public won't understand it. They'll think you made it up, and on and on. And by the way, I thought I made it up because it wasn't in the dictionaries. It wasn't in my dictionary at home. It wasn't in the dictionary. And I still have the dictionary at home. I showed it. And it wasn't in the dictionaries at the library, either of them. And it wasn't until a handful of years ago, the great Final Blossom, who wrote on his blog about this, found a 50-year-old dictionary that it was in, anti-white and anti-whitism, but it had been removed in subsequent editions. Think about that, folks. So this, when somebody shows up, and this is something just to think about, when somebody shows up, especially when they have built a reputation up that they're in the sphere, they're in the white sympathetic sphere, but they show up and they'll say like, this person who makes music in this community, his music is really good. And this other person who makes music in this community, his music is garbage. When somebody shows up like that, it is clearly a undercover anti-white who has the intention is to build up a reputation of somebody who is a believer, a friend, a comrade, what have you. And really, it's just a crypto anti-white. And they have a low IQ. So they show up and they want to cause dissension. They want to cause infighting. Well, you're not going to be able to cause infighting here. I'm not going to fight any of Bob Whitaker's old followers because I defended them. I defended them when everybody went after them. So you're not going to be able to cause infighting here. That's obviously your intent when you show up and you say, he did this, you didn't do that. Because we're doing good work for white well-being. And so you can either, if you observe that and you want that outcome, then you want strength and you want a doubling, a tripling of activity. So if you thought something, maybe you think my nose is ugly, you would keep it to yourself, because sharing that with the community could only be deleterious. Don't you think his nose is ugly? What do you think about his nose? So you out yourself so easily. So my suggestion to you is you either have to, if you are a crypto anti-white, just go. I mean, we can see it. Just go, because the troll slayers will eventually metaphorically slay you anyhow, because they can see through that shit. And if you're just a me not, because I know that, I have problems. We all know that this whole community has problems with me nots out there. And because of our success, their deep jealousy, they want to show up and they just want to say, you didn't do any of that. You didn't create any of that. And they'll do that after years and years of arguing that what you're saying won't work. Then when it does, it's you didn't do it. So no reason. I mean, you're saying you don't doubt that I'm doing good work. Then shut up about when you heard Bob Whitaker. You mean, so what happened for you was you heard Bob Whitaker say it, the word anti-white, just the word anti-white, before you heard me say it. So that doesn't mean shit. That's telling us about your personal timeline, your lived timeline. So to show up, you're like, everything that's happened in the world has I've witnessed it. And so therefore, since I heard Bob say it first, then therefore you could not have been out there and advocating since 94 for it. Couldn't have been doing it. Oh, you've got a whole book of a method. You got a whole book of a method. Bob had a discursive, just rambling meme, whatever you want to refer to it as. What did he call it? The mantra. And it was discursive. I mean, it just was. But he had this discursive mantra. And then you come to somebody who has iterations that are actually available. A number of the iterations are available on, or they were, because the new iterations supplant the old ones. But you have multiples of this growing text, a whole method for curing white people. And you're like, you want to show up, curing us of anti-whitism, and you're going to show up and say, oh, you didn't do that. You didn't do that. You need to admit that you didn't do it. I'm here to say that you're less than you appear to be. You don't got to worry about saying that I'm less than I appear to be to the rest of, to much of the white sympathetic sphere. They're already going to just stay away. So, I mean, not all of them can understand the mission and the intelligence, and not all of them get to see me naked and in action. So it's just understandable. But what we do get to see now is Archangel says, Buddy Brown, who is a champion, thank you, says, Buddy Brown looks questionably white. Why is it that everyone wants to either be us or pretend to be us? Sounds like jealousy to me. Yeah, well, exactly. No W Guilt is here. He says, fire. Thank you, brother. What's important to me is this is so disingenuous. It seems important to Jason about who was using it first. First of all, it's an objective fact. But what's important to me is to state my position when me-nots come up and try to take away from me my life's work and the debt that I've paid. You know how repulsive it is for white, and this is presuming that you are white. I mean, for all we know that you're in a city in the Middle East somewhere, but presuming you're white, you really think it's the white thing to do to show up to a white man. I mean, it's like show up at a white man who's in the process of building a castle, and he's been working on it for 30 years. And it's this, it's really, there's a whole piece of the castle now together. And it's just day after day after day. No glory, no money, no applause, no swag for it, nothing. He's just doing it. And to show up and say, you didn't actually mold the nails you used. I mean, that's just to be a real cocksucker. You didn't mold those nails first. That's not the white thing to do. So if you're going to stay on that track, you're either an anti-white of some race, maybe white, and just deeply anti-white, or you're a me-not from some other part of the white sympathetic sphere, and you're just jealous, and you're like these blogs I see that people take screenshots and they send, this is what the private chat is saying about you now. And it's just all these jealous statements about Jason. Oh, just because he's done this, it's that. It's just because he's done this, and then, come on. Buddy Brown. Better interrupt that, because we don't need this patriot coming after me. How's the sound for everybody? Can you give me some feedback?
Well, evidently liberals tell me that I am politically colorblind because I can only see things through my straight white filter.
Okay, so really quick, this is a short video by Buddy Brown. He sometimes makes country music and it makes a bunch of money off of being this character, like this supposedly this Southern guy, and he's just got the down home ways, and that's what he wants to communicate, this common sense down home ways, and makes a lot of money off folks. And the first video we reviewed didn't turn out well for Buddy, and this one is really pernicious. This one's really insidious, because it is expressed here. A number of problems are expressed here by Buddy, but they are ubiquitous across, and it's across the West, across Western civilization. You don't have to just be a good old boy down home. And by the way, I am the goodest of the good old boys down home. the proudest Virginian, proudest Southerner you'll ever meet. So what is characteristic at this point is to say, well, he's criticizing Southern people. And so therefore, no, you can't beat off my argument with that dum-dum. All right. I guess we can hear it okay. Archangel says we need a female co-host for the show. All the females get someone to oogle in front in the form of Jason, but the females get something to oogle in the form of me. Thanks. But us guys have nothing. Can we get Ladybug to appear in a bikini? Wow, that would be that would be, no one would hear anything I say. That would be the problem. Not a single word would be heard by anyone. Cool Papa says, what do you think of Jesse Lee Peterson? I'm not believing the accusation. I haven't followed that. Or what accusations? There's some older accusations. But I'll come back to that. Thank you for the question. I'm going to jump into this. Buddy Brown. So he's going to talk about why recessions don't hurt rednecks. And that, of course, if you don't know, if you live like in the northeast part of the United States and maybe the central north, the word redneck is a pejorative. But down home and across much of the Midwest, it's a compliment. It means that you obey the law, you're inventive, you work hard, you pay your taxes. Very often it means you go to church, or you at least have a pretty solid moral base for your life.
You know, it's a great, beautiful filter. You should check it out on Instagram. Word is on the street that we are headed for a big, big recession. I mean, all signs point to it. There really ain't no escaping. Beta male Starbucks drinkers, they are shaking in their boots. So let me tell y'all something. The folks I talk to, they ain't too concerned. I mean, Bubba ain't waking up in the morning concerned that Biden's policies are going to be affecting deer season or the bass biting.
Okay. So you see it right away here. This is the baseless bravado. And it's beyond baseless. This guy is hollow. There's nothing to this kind of posturing, this hollow hubris. There's nothing to it. And folks doing this need to be called out as cowards for not addressing the victimization of Western kind. This you've all heard so many times, where they'll say, oh, he can't do anything to me because they can't do X, Y, or Z to me. You just wait till they, come to my house. ATF going around to people's houses, no shootouts recently. But there's nothing they can do. There's nothing. And it's beyond pathetic at this point. It's been beyond pathetic for a very long time. And but what's lacking, what's as bad, is that real men and women of the West aren't calling this out. So refusing to observe, refusing to acknowledge how you can be victimized. For example, in this case, he says, and there's no guarantee about what he's claiming here about this really big recession or whatever. But if that's the case, then he should soberly be addressing his audience. He has well over 100,000 views on this dumb little video. So you have this claim that, and I'm going to share something with you all at the end. Don't go anywhere, because there's something about living in the wild, living out in the wood, living out so far nobody ever find you, off grid. that if you haven't heard about it and you haven't thought about it before, you're going to have to, because it's growing. It's becoming more and more prevalent across the United States. So I'll share that with you all sort of as a public service announcement. So here's this loser. Bubba don't care. Bubba don't care. Let's back this up. Your life might go to the dogs. You might lose your job. You might, as a white person out there, and there you have the radical individualism that we have to dismantle, put through a paper shredder, put through a wood chipper, and then put into an incinerator, and then take the dust and put it on a rocket and fire it at the sun. No more radical individualism. End of radical individualism. This is what radical individualism gets you. Well, hell, you just let them go ahead and wipe that economy out because my friend Bubba over here, he's going to be fine. Your family might starve to death. You might be a barista at Starbucks. You might starve to death. So what? According to this guy, this is Americanism. This is why America fell so easily to the anti-whites. I mean, it was like the wind blowing through the reeds. And this wind, called a pyroclastic flow. Just a giant cloud, superheated cloud off the top of a volcano that blew through fields of wheat. That's how easily America fell to anti-whitism. And why is that? Because you had a bunch of white people who were proud about being white. And they thought they had manifest destiny. But they were infected by this asinine individualism. And that was it. Like this. That's how easy America went down. And you're seeing it articulated by this guy right now. And then he's, what did he call him? A lefty or a liberal at the Starbucks or whatever. Well, if it's a white guy, you don't necessarily know that he's anti-white. Maybe he's got a degree in engineering, but can't get a job doing it because he's white. Now he's got to work at Starbucks and contemplate suicide. And then when the value of his measly check can't buy him food anymore, well, so what? Because it's all about radical individualism.
It turns out a bass hits a worm just as hard during a recession as he does during an economic boom.
All right, so this is you see how it's unfolding already. They'll ruin the economy, but I'll be able to hunt. I'll be able to fish. If you will be able to hunt and fish. First of all, they decide whether or not you get to fish or not. You ever heard of a license? When you say, well, I'll just go out on my own. Well, then they'll just arrest you and fine you. What's going to happen to those population in those creeks and streams and ponds and etc. when the anti-whites decide to cut those sources of food off? Dumb. You really think they're going to allow a bunch of people to live around a food supply such as bass just hopping out of the creek? This ain't the 1800s. You can't go hide out in the woods and not have law enforcement and the government find you. Not only that, but when you have to, are all your hunting done in your front yard? Because if not, then you're going to have to get into a vehicle, and it's probably a big gas guzzling or diesel guzzling truck that requires a lot of parts made in civilization that you won't be able to afford anymore if everything goes bad. So this is, in a very real way, this is a parallel argument to the preppers. This is just the posturing of a dickless wonder. This is, well, it's not going to bother me. It's not going to bother me. Sure. This is the guy that cries in the fist fight. This is a guy that immediately starts begging for the police to come save him when he's finally pissed somebody off. This is the guy who his date laughs at when he finally takes his pants off. And she says, "Do you think I've never seen a ruler?"
He ain't jumping out of the water asking what the NASDAQ's doing.
Boy,
Our freezers are going to be full.
My freezer's going to be full, but you'll be dead. Oh, what morality there.
The great is hard during a recession as he does during an economic boom. He ain't jumping out of the water asking what the NASDAQ's doing. Our freezers are going to be full. And I don't know what y'all heard through the grapevine.
You know what I noticed in this video? Over here by his beyond his left shoulder is the jackalope, and it's a fanciful character, doesn't exist, but it's like part of every idiot's garage. You never go to the home of a quantum physicist and find a jackalope.
Of the blue collar grapevine anyway. But we just spent $800 billion to reduce inflation, which is pretty much like asking Rosie O'Donnell to save you the last piece of pizza. It ain't going to happen.
Oh, that's so funny. Let me see what you all are saying really quickly. Archangel says he uses redneck as a euphemism for conservative white people. He wants us to claim that we aren't victimized. Yeah, precisely. And it's cowardice to do that, and it's also a shirking of your duty. Because as men and women of the West, okay, sound is good. As men and women of the West, we owe all of our extended family, our thoughts, our love, our protection, where we can manifest it for them. So any guy saying, first of all, it's a lie to say, they can't do anything to me, I'm too tough. It's just baseless posturing. And he's standing idly by while white children are being victimized by the anti-whites. Because they can't do anything to him. They can't do anything to us. We're just, and then, sectarianize it to any group you want. So in this case, this guy's saying, well, we're rednecks. We just go out and hunt. We just find fish. My freezer's going to be full of fish. Unless they come and take your food, dumbass. Unless they decide to not stock that lake that's several miles down the road from where you live and do all your big fishing. This is the idea. I just want to mention it again, and I'll take a look at your comments. This is the idea that is parallel to this surviving off the grid nonsense. We don't need society as they stand in line at the pharmacist. We don't need all this civilization all these gadgets that you make, and as they buy their brand new quad. I mean, this is when their content creators do this. It's not just funny. It's not just wrong. It's not just silly. It's not just a head shaker. Like, I can't believe it. This is the equivalent of an agent, an enemy agent in your country, convincing your people that the presence of soldiers from another land is perfectly normal, nothing to be. And if you look askance at all at these soldiers and their flags and their tanks and everything, then you're just some kind of coward. You're not strong in your belief to be able to just sustain yourself as an individual. That's the equivalent of what this is. So, and what's the remedy for it is to ridicule and mock these people. Just savagely. All right. Looks like that me not was deleted. I guess he wouldn't let up. I wonder, writes JK160, if this guy has boxes of Cheez-Its like the last prepping loser. Yeah, I'm sure. I guarantee you he does. I guarantee you he does. Carlisle, what was that other guy's name? I guarantee you this guy's freezer that's full of the bass he'd been catching is actually full of microwave meals. And actually, he's pretty wealthy. So off of all these conservatives and rednecks and etc., patriots, buying his shirts and songs and albums. So he might have a maid that makes them probably what's that stuff called? It's not Cool Whip, fluff. That doesn't look like that's rat poison for people. Nothing does. Probably every dish he eats is probably covered in fluff. Yeah, prepper nurse. Brad C. Great. Thank you. Ed is, I guess, his first name. Thank you. Carlisle. Yeah, with his Cheez-Its. He was a Cheez-Its farmer. And like I said then, that's hydroponic. So it's a very difficult thing to do when you have to. See, that's what prepper nurse, well, he talks all day long about, don't do anything in the world. Don't try to resist this. Don't push back in any way. You just prepare for everything to collapse. And as he's saying this, thinking of his next script when he has his large audience of besotted white folk. As he's thinking about this, he's pulling up at the ATM run by electricity, where he is withdrawing some money, U.S. currency, that is accruing as a consequence of his retirement in 401k. These people are bastards when you get right down to it. I mean, this guy, he's a bastard. He is poisoning the minds of hundreds of thousands of conservatives, nationalists, etc., who need to be standing up and doing something now. They can't sit back anymore and continue to act pathetically like they can't be harmed. They're just going to be able to go out and run a trout line. Over here on Cash App, let's get a big round of raucous emojis going, because we've gotten some attention. Some 07's raucous emoji, $20 minimum for that, $25 financial gift. From Duke of Hazzard. That is awesome. That is fantastic. Duke of Hazzard has come in with a $25 financial gift, and he says, for standing down and standing by. It's a reference to Donald Trump. That's hilarious. Thank you very much. And we also have, well, isn't this interesting? Get out another round of 07, some salutes, V for victory, raucous emojis, because we have a $30 financial gift from Starlet Overby. Thank you so much, sister. But here's how it came to me. She sent $30 to the great and honorable No White Guilt Clips, who, upon receiving this, figured out that she was trying to financially gift me. And so he sent it along those 30. So let's get a big salute for No White Guilt Clips, that mega champion, that Herculean god in all white positivity, passing this along. But do know that if you would like to support No White Guilt Clips, please do so. If his information is out there and you can get a hold of his information, support No White Guilt Clips. If you can't send him cash as a gift or money as a gift, then support him with your words. Let him know how much you appreciate him and all the hard work that he's doing in service to white well-being. God bless you, brother. I really appreciate it. Duca Hazard, Starlit Overby, and No White Gill Clips. Based in Red Pilled is here. I bet he thinks we all bleed red, white, and blue. He doesn't see color. Yes, exactly. You know he does. You white people out there, you just go out there and be radical individualists. Just think you could just go out there and you could just hunt yourself a grizzly. I've heard guys talk about just insane things. Like, if it came down to it, I'd hunt bears with a knife. No, you wouldn't. You would cry in a corner of Walmart because the shelves are empty. And then the police would take you off to jail where you'd be raped to death. All right, just taking a look. Make sure you tag me if you want me to see. Based in Red Pill says, will you be debating someone from the NJP anytime? The only one from the NJP, oh gosh, I just forgot his name. He appeared with me on PWR. The remainder won't appear with me. Oh, I just almost had his name again. Damn it. And I think they would just rather not talk with me. All right, let's get back to this, and then we'll take a look elsewhere.
We live by a code in the woods that surpasses all politics. We love our neighbors. We keep to ourselves.
Surpasses all politics. I believe what he's saying there is surpasses race, surpasses the objection to victimization as white people. So we don't talk about race. We got a code in the woods. So it's all abstractions out in the woods. Doesn't matter. Remember from the other video, doesn't matter what gender, what genders there you are. It doesn't matter what race you are. Remember that in the other video? So now he's saying we got a code, an abstraction out in the woods. This is what happened to the South, and it breaks my fucking heart. The South has been, the Southland in the U.S. had, because it had an identity apart from the United States, that really joined it from like the westmost part of Texas all the way across and then all the way up to Northern Virginia. For a long time, people thought if there's going to be any resistance, it's going to get started there because they have this. And to a degree, I mean, there are still pockets of this. But increasingly, anti-whitism, since it's psychological warfare, everything falls before it that isn't a psychological defense specifically designed for it. So even Southern identity. And so now you see where, well, back in Duca Hazard days, they would say, a Southerner is white, almost always Christian, and then it would be like this list of things. Not anymore. Now it's just like some abstractions, just like the rest of the United States.
And we never, ever trust a white liberal wearing flip.
What? Of course he would just condemn white people. What an absolute dickless piece of shit. Can you see the hand up his ass by the puppeteer?
Ain't gonna happen. We live by a code in the woods that surpasses all politics. We love our neighbors, we keep to ourselves, and we never ever trust a white liberal wearing flip-flops and eating kale telling us how to live our lives.
Okay, so attacking white people. Yeah, man, you got to be really brave. You got to be really courageous to do that, to attack white people. That takes a lot of bravery. What an anti-white piece of shit. Be a radical individualist. Don't worry about what happens to the rest of the white race. We're this group of abstractions, which, by the way, Lovely Porge on the other side of the world points out, is what he talks about as communism. You're going to have, everybody has to have the same set of ideas. And if you don't agree on the same set of ideas, like we're all just whatever genders, whatever races we are, we all have just this little set of ideas. And if you don't like it, then we throw you out. And when he decides to attack a race, and he attacks the white race, the race that is victimized. What a piece of shit. See, like when this guy has a concert somewhere, somebody needs to get a hold of a mic that's plugged into the speakers and tell everybody there that this guy hates white people. Demand that he say that he objects to the victimization of Western kind. I'm going to personally start ridiculing this guy.
The modern Democrat male is the kind of dude that orders a knife designed by Navy SEALs, but all it ever gets used for is opening a few of his wife's Amazon packages.
No. That's not the modern Democrat male. He would never order something that was associated with warfare in the military. No, the kind of guy that would order something associated with the military and specifically special warfare is this clown. And it wouldn't be Amazon packages that he would be opening up for his wife. It would be the new vibrator box because she's burning through those things since he can't pleasure her.
The modern Democrat male buys a pickup truck, but all the truck bed ever gets used for is 2 bags of mulch once a month from the Lowe's Garden Center. They are not the same as us.
Oh, so, and that's like 90% of Americans. They're what they do with their vehicles. They have a truck. They're going to drive it to work. How many people own trucks, pickup trucks, and who actually like dump 1,000 pounds of rocks into the bag? How many people? I mean, that's right. Doesn't happen. That's a small number. But we're different because we're just towing Concords over mountains. Shut up.
Rednecks, we ain't quite as worried about a recession, I guess, because we all have hoarding tendencies. Nothing gets thrown out. Y'all know this. We reuse and we repurpose everything. Plus, we've been ready.
Hold on. These hoarders reuse and repurpose. You mean people that have a psychological disorder and their houses are full of trash from their lives. From 50 years ago, trash stacked from floor to ceiling. That's not a strength. You know, the electric bill from like 1989 in shoeboxes is not a strength. Him being able to repurpose the condom he used 7 years ago is not a strength.
Ready for the apocalypse since January 20th, 2009. Liberals are dependent. Y'all know this. We reuse and we repurpose everything. Plus, we've been ready for the apocalypse since January 20th, 2009.
Okay, so he got right to the point about what I'm saying about these people, that they're going to be able to survive off the grid, that they're going to be able to survive without government. This is baseless, hollow hubris that we need to break out of our people. And we maybe beat it out of them, metaphorically, of course. You're not surviving shit. Nothing in that space where he's sitting right now was made by him. He's not surviving any apocalypse.
Liberals are dependent because they're dependent on a system which can always crumble. We're independent.
Oh, there it is.
Dependent because they're dependent on January 20th, 2009. Liberals.
And I just want to jump in here. I get in his mind, apparently they're all white because he was able to identify the white race when he went on the attack.
Are dependent for the apocalypse since January 20th, 2009. Liberals are dependent because they're dependent on a system which can always crumble. We're independent because we got daddy's belt, his thick skin, and his 45. The economics.
My God. That is so childish. I grew up around, when I was a child, I grew up and I would hear adults say stuff like this. And even as a child, I would lose immediately. I would lose all respect for them. Got daddy's belt, his thick skin, his 45. Well, they got a sound cannon that will liquefy your organs, you dumb motherfucker. And they won't even have to use it because they'll just have to come up and knock. We want your guns. Okay. What'd I do wrong? You were white.
Just don't work no matter how bad they want it to. Watching liberals try to explain economics is just about as awkward as Deshaun Watson walking into a new massage parlor. It ain't a good idea. Yet.
Okay, so when I skipped through this, I caught that part right there, and I was like, "Who's this?" I bet you it's got to be some kind of sports ball guy. So I looked that up really quick. Boy, by the way, look at the image there. If you could maybe take a screenshot and zoom in later, he's absolutely fit. I'm not saying everybody's got to be, look like me or the golden one, but look at this guy's belly coming out through his t-shirt. That's a size too big for him. And these noodles coming out of the sleeves. Wonder if he has arms. So I had to look up who this Deshaun is. Deshaun. Of course, it's one of these non-white athletes that all of these guys who we don't need a system, but I could just live out in the middle of nowheres and whatever, that they worship these guys. And here's the really disgusting thing. These non-white athletes. Here's the really disgusting thing. This particular non-white athlete is in a lot of trouble for, the claim is, I don't know if any of it is true or not yet, but that he's been sexually assaulting the people who have been giving him massages. Now, if it's an assault, then these people obviously did not want him to touch them or to grab their hands and put their hands on him. Imagine this is probably some really strong football player, American football player, and intimidating and also intimidating, culturally socially intimidating, because what are you going to do? You're going to fight back against this guy. And then now you have some anti-white group shows up in front of your parlor and you run out of business instantly for being heretical, not treating one of the most injured group in all of the history of the cosmos like a king. They all should be treated as kings and queens. And then you immediately go out of business. But the thing that occurred to me that made this particularly disgusting for him to turn this into a joke is that damn well and good that a great many of these individuals who are coming forward and saying, I was assaulted by him, are white women. What do you think about him now? Is that funny? Is that funny, you fucking piece of shit? You goddamn clown. This clown there thinks it's real funny to talk about this guy. He just keeps going into massage parlors and keeps grabbing hold of them white women.
And it keeps happening. Truth is, you could drop about 10,000 nuclear bombs on us right now, and the last thing on planet Earth is going to be a McDonald's, fire ants, and rednecks, because those are the hardiest elements on the planet Earth.
It doesn't get more childish. Isn't he like a 9-year-old boy in a like quasi male's body? I mean, he's got a lot of feminine features, like back fat. But I mean, isn't it a 9? You could drop 10,000 nuclear bombs on us. When was the last time you heard that? Yeah, me too. Elementary school. But they didn't actually say that anything would survive, right? It was cooler. It was like we would be radioactive monsters or whatever. Not with this clown. It's like McDonald's will survive. That's his hyperbole. Thrown in there. It's hilarious.
Earth. They know that I'm speaking the truth. You step on our hose, we're just going to reroute it. You cut off our supply, we'll make our own. And if you come at us, you better bring something stronger than 87,000.
Oh, this is the end of it. So here it manifests again. It was gross and wild hyperbole a moment ago. 10,000 nuclear bombs, and now it's back to the literal claims that the government could pinch off your hose, and his prostate's already doing that for him. I assure you. But the government could pinch off your hose, and we're just going to reroute it. No, you're not. No, you are not. If they want to do something to you, the anti-whites dominate, they will do it. And you will not be able to resist. And all this bravado is doing is setting up millions of our brothers and sisters for rape, for murder, for molestation, for who knows. I mean, if they could say today, we want all white people to march into the front of this brick wall for a firing squad. If white people would do it, they would order it to happen, because they always go to the extreme. They always go to as far. Anti-whites of all races always go as far as white people generally, Westmen, will allow it. So you keep people talking about how they can't do anything to me. And that keeps them preoccupied. So they don't actually start getting nervous. You know, hell, if you just act like a pompous prick with nothing to back it up, that's all you need to do in life.
We'll make our own. And if you come at us, you better bring something stronger than 87,000 IRS agents armed with vegan sandwiches and a squirt gun.
Okay. 87,000 agents. And I think I shared what it said. They pulled it off the IRS website. And I don't know if it's true anymore. This is apparently it was on the website for the new jobs. Some of these new 87,000 agents that, remember, the IRS can, and everyone knows this. Everyone knows the IRS can absolutely destroy you. And they've done it. They go out and they rake people over the coals and there's nothing left. Every single person out there knows it. And here, this rich prick is going to tell everyone who could afford attorneys, who could afford to move money out of this country. This rich prick is going to tell all these blue-collar working class people that, and by the way, he doesn't look like he's worked a day in his life, does he? Not fit like that. He's just, I got a pair of blue jeans on, and he made sure to like kneel in somebody else's driveway where their clunker is leaking oil, so he would have a little bit of oil stains there. But he's telling all these blue-collar white folk that, hell, they can't do anything with them IRS and their vegan sandwiches. I don't give a shit what they eat, man, by the way. Their vegan sandwiches and their what we call them, squirt guns. It's supposedly, it's said, and it's out there for folks to learn. And it was, in fact, Tucker Carlson aired it on Fox News. And some others did as well. But Tucker Carlson aired it on Fox News, so you'd be able to go find it there. It said you have to be, for this job, you have to be able to use lethal force. What happened with Randy Weaver? Why don't y'all look that up? Well, they can't do it to all of us. Yes, they can, because you're a bunch of radical individuals. How many? Where was the army that came and saved Randy Weaver? And that was back before some of you were even born. Where was the army? That whole town. Nobody went out there to fight the FBI and the ATF and whoever else showed up there. Local police, state troopers. Nobody. There was no military combat. They surrounded the house and shot the dog, and the son was shot dead by them, and the infant shot dead while the mother was holding the infant. She was killed by the same blast. And I believe his friend was also shot dead. This is going to take a whole lot hell of a more. I mean, this is trivializing of, it's almost like a sick gallows humor. If it wasn't, like if he were talking about himself, it would be gallows humor. If he would say, they're going to come up me and there's nothing they can do with all their guns and tanks. Okay, that'd be gallows humor. He's talking about you. That's what he's laughing about. That's what he's making light of. Them coming for you.
Y'all liberals and big city dwellers, go ahead and figure out how to live, because when they cut your supply chain off, it's just over. But if we go through tough times, we got...
Same thing happens. It's just over. If they cut the supply chains off, it's just over. Same thing happens to you as everybody in the cities. And by the way, if supply chains were cut off, and this is the prepper nonsense. If supply chains were cut off, or they were unable to produce goods and bring them to market, people aren't going to just sit cross-legged in the cities and starve to death, watch each other getting skinnier and skinnier. They're going to come out to the suburbs. Then they're going to go out to the exurbs. Then you're going to find your little lonely houses. And you can run around window from window. You're not even going to be able to shoot at them, because if you do, then law enforcement is going to Randy Weaver you. Why isn't that a verb? Why isn't there something called weavering? Why don't we have a verb for what this anti-white government does to us? And it could not be more grossly demonstrated than what they did to Randy Weaver, in my opinion. I mean, to say now, remember, and he even won his civil suit, as I understand. People can look it up. I don't know every detail. But, he said that while the siege was going on at his house, out in the woods, out in the mountain, where he could run a trout line and all that bullshit, right? Hunting deer, clean the deer and everything else under the sun, and have his little patch of watermelon, like that's going to feed you and your family anytime. He's out there. Somehow, even though he's way out there, law enforcement was able to find him, and they actually surrounded the property with agents and tactical gear. Believe it or not. I know it. Believe it or not. And then Weaver it said, as I understand, that he told law enforcement after whatever amount of time it was, while the siege was going on in his house, the son was dead, his friend was dead, best friend dead, his son dead, his best friend dead, the dog dead, and I think he might have even been shot or wounded somehow at this point. And he told the police, "Your beef is with me. Please let me send my wife and daughter. They're about to come out. Let me send them out. They should not have to go through this." And they said, "Okay, you can send her out. Remember, look into this story for yourself and see what happened. Because maybe I'm recounting it wrong. Maybe I don't have it right." She opened the door. She was carrying the infant, stepped out onto the porch, and a sniper put a bullet through the baby's head and her heart. Why don't we have a verb called weavering? And when somebody like this talks this way, why isn't he just knocked out right away? I mean, sake. How are you going to trivialize what's happening to our people like this?
Jimmy Earl and cousin Ray Ray out there who know how to keep the redneck underground going 365 days a year. If it all goes to hell, your precious cities are going to have high crime, looting, starvation, blocked freeways. We're going to have a pig in the ground, some beer on ice, and all my rowdy friends are going to be coming over tonight.
Oh, that's like a line out of a country song or something. Yeah, they're just going to sit around there in the cities, just starve to death and rob each other for nothing. And they're not going to come out to your country house. Mobs and mobs and mobs of people made into hunters of humans.
Appreciate y'all watching. Be sure to subscribe. These videos are a hell of a lot cheaper than therapy.
Yeah. Look at this guy. Looks like he actually looks like a Jim Henson Muppet, doesn't he? Where is the puppeteer's hand? I don't see it. It's going up his ass somewhere. That's probably why he's got such a big smile on his face. He really likes it. So I don't know. Maybe you could, if you can't get to him or one of his concerts to humiliate him there, maybe go into his live chat, humiliate him there. I mean, anything. Get this guy, whoever can get him in his comment thread to say that he doesn't care about white people is really kicking ass. Because I don't think that he's smart enough. I mean, he vilified white people. I don't think he's smart enough to know that a ton of his audience won't think it's as funny if he says that he doesn't really care about white people. So however way that you can be creative and that you can come after this guy. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to look at your comments again, and I'll look at some of these comments I have here. Here's the thing. He's talking about you're just going to go out there and live in the woods, right? Should I share the screen on this? Maybe. You ever heard of alpha gal? No, that's not a nerd's way of saying my best girl. Have you ever heard of alpha gal? Alpha-gal syndrome is recently identified type of food allergy to red meat and other products made from mammals. In the United States, the condition is most often caused by a lone star tick bite. The bite transmits a sugar molecule called alpha-gal into the person's body. In some people, this triggers an immune system reaction that later produces mild to severe allergic reaction, anaphylactic shock, folks. A severe allergic reaction to meat. Has anybody heard of that? Where's the other one? Here it is. How a tick bite can make you allergic to meat. So you're just going to go live in the country with all your bravado. You'll be out there. Feds will never find you. Those mobs, those millions and millions of people in the cities, they'll never find you. You'll just be out there with the Lone Star tick. Alpha-gal syndrome is still somewhat rare, but cases are growing. Bad news, burger fans. A tick bite has the potential to permanently remove red meat, and as we just heard, all meat from your menu. A meat allergy known as alpha-gal syndrome, AGS, appears to be triggered by a tick bite, researchers say. Case counts are growing, too. There were only 24 cases reported in the United States in 2009. By 2018, the number topped 34,000. In fact, a federal report noted that AGS has become the leading cause of, I'm going to read it again. In fact, a federal report noted that AGS has become the leading cause of anaphylaxis in a southeastern registry of patients, the leading cause. I wonder, when you're living off the grid and you don't have an EpiPen, what happens when you go into anaphylaxis? So, according to this article, what do we know about this emerging allergy that threatens to cool the coals on a favorite backyard grill option? And what can you do to avoid it? It talks about, I guess it was maybe in the other one. Yes, it says it in the other story. The Lone Star tick is found predominantly in the southeastern United States, and most cases of alpha-gal syndrome occur in this region. The tick can also be found in the eastern and south central United States. The condition appears to be spreading further north and west. However, as deer carry the Lone Star tick to new parts of the United States. Alpha-gal has also been diagnosed in Europe, Australia, and Asia, where other types of ticks carry alpha-gal molecules. Isn't this just such a windfall, such a powerful coincidence that anti-whites on planet Earth have, in recent lived history, told us that you're going to have to stop eating meat. We're not going to allow you to eat meat. When populations eat meat, they're strong. Throughout all of history, conquerors would simply deprive conquered areas of meat. How were they able to do it, by the way? Couldn't you just go out into the back and we have this redneck underground and we just, no, dumbass. You couldn't do that. Even back then, when they didn't have drones that are a dime a dozen now, that can fly through the sky, well, I'll just shoot it down. You won't see it. You won't be able to see or hear it. And have you seen how fast they travel? I'm talking about hundreds of miles an hour. And they're going to zip over and they're going to take photographs and video of everything you have there. Wherever you are, they'll be able to identify wherever you are. And by the way, it won't matter because you will have been bitten by the Lone Star tick. And if you take a bite of any meat, including that bass, you're going to die of anaphylaxis. What an interesting coincidence that is. That suddenly ticks around Earth are carrying a molecule that, when your body sees the molecule, decides that if you eat any meat, it's going to kill you. Let's see what you all are saying. And okay, entropy is blank. Let me see over here. Hello to everybody over there at D Live. And hello to everybody over there at Odyssey. Let's see if it'll update for me. All right. We'll refresh this, see what you all are saying. We'll take a look at some of these, and we're going to keep rolling. Archangel, are you asking about the ticks, the types of ticks? In the United States, it's the Lone Star tick, and it started off primarily in the southeast, but it's growing, and you can look at maps of the spread of the Lone Star tick, and it's growing north and west. How are these ticks? Lone Star ticks didn't just show up, right? I'm just asking questions. I'm not saying anything one way or the other. But how is it a tick that its range wasn't growing, suddenly carry a molecule that it spits into you when it drinks your blood that causes you to become allergic to meat products. And if it's bad enough, it can be anything even treated with meat products of any type. And you can read about it. So suddenly it has this molecule in it, and suddenly it has its ability to spread its range. And none of the big anti-white media is talking about that at all. That would be kind of like a life-altering thing. I guess this guy and all these other wannabes, because he's not a redneck. He's not a real redneck. This guy's a poser. He is just a poser. A goofy poser. I guess he and a lot of these others that are besotted by his idiocy, I guess they're going to end up eating those vegan sandwiches. And then you all will get to be as muscleless as he is. Art Acrobats, great to see you here. Bertie is here, great to see you. And Nancy Drew as well. The Tree Godfather. Archangel says, sounds like biological warfare to me. Yeah, it's shown up in North America, Europe, Australia, and Asia. I wonder where exactly in Asia. And I wonder if that was more accidental. Buscape says about this Buddy Brown that he's soft as clay. He's probably softer. Soft as his wife's tampon. Promethean Epoch, great to see you, good brother. Were you watching the very beginning of the show? You'll have to go back and watch. He says, but Jason, I thought people just needed to read Siege and everything would work out for them. Yeah. Based in Red Pilled says that Buddy Brown has a song called We Need to Be Less White. No, he couldn't mean that. No, he's probably mocking like maybe the Coca-Cola thing where wasn't it Coca-Cola that said you need to be less white? So this is what these kind of content creators do. These cuckold creators. This is what they do for the rank and file good people. You see, if our people could recognize a real man of the West, could you imagine what real Southerners, if they looked to me, an actual Southerner, unlike this poser, an actual proud Southerner, if they looked to me, could you imagine all of those scores and scores of millions of actual hardcore, current military, retired military, working on oil rigs and working in the fields and building bridges and all of those kind of guys? Could you imagine the force that we would wield? There would be nothing we couldn't get done, because in all seriousness, that's the spirit of the West. The inventiveness, the can-do mentality, the creativity, the drive to conquer that which seeks to conquer you. Right now, the United States should be working on annihilating all of these Lone Star ticks. You know, if you can put together gene-altering therapies, then surely you can find something that these Lone Star ticks could pass one to the other, maybe by way of mating. I don't know. And that would take a life, almost the totality of their lifespan to finally kill them. So it would spread it everywhere. Franklin, I was talking to Based. You have to format exactly as presented. Okay. Thank you for doing that, Franklin. Does anybody have any ideas on how to humiliate this guy so that his fans know that he's a poser and doesn't care about white people? This is one of the reasons why, the main reason why the Jason Goes Political show is important is because so many people are still of the mindset that it's about the political system, the socio-political structures, if not necessarily, even if they've abandoned the whole idea of some politician or a couple of politicians, and many sane people have abandoned that because a whole lifetime of learning kind of does that for most people. But they're still sort of engaged in socio-political activity. And what they need to know is that you don't go after the Starbucks barista. You don't go after these like low-hanging fruit. You don't go after, I don't know, Nancy Pelosi and just rag on her all day long. The people you go after are the ones who are in everybody's eyesight, or more people's eyesight than, to the point that they're influential. And you force them to either admit they don't care about white people, they don't care about what's happening in the West, they don't think that Western civilization comes from white people. There are a host of ideas that if you can force them to say it, if you can corner them to admit it, that it's going to signal their audience that their dog whistles are deceptive. That's the only thing that we can actually do. There was a time, I'll remind everybody, there was a time that Newt Gingrich effectively was the Boebert of today. And now what's this guy? So he was like on the edge. He was, what we're going to do for America, it's very different than what's been happening so far with what the Republicans have been. Go back and listen to the speeches. And then everybody said, oh, I hear the dog whistle. And they all showed up. And what did it do for white America? Which is really redundant. It harmed us. So if you're going to sit around with Boebert and Green and the rest of these people, and you're going to let them deceptively dog whistle, we're going to be harmed by their very presence. We're harmed by this guy's presence without it being revealed that he's really just a shyster, that he's really just a poser. Poser is the right word for him down home. And I think in other parts of the U.S., maybe it doesn't work in other Western countries, but that's all he is a poser. He's making a lot of money. And what's he doing with all that money? Well, he's buying homes, vacations, buying junk, expensive junk for his kids, paying for concerts for him to go play, to people cheer at him. All the way to the end, ladies and gentlemen. That's how it's going to go if we don't interrupt it. That means you and me. That means we have to actually do the work. We have to actually get our hands into the gears. We have to take the motor apart. And we have to repair this. If you are naturally comedic and risible, this is perfect for you. Pick one of these people, find a friend, go over it, all the different ways that you can mock them, you can ridicule them, you can corner them to get them to admit that America is a country of ideas. Their followers are not going to like that. Do you follow me? Do you understand what I'm saying? Get them to admit to any of these things that their audiences, who are paying them to live large, paying them to buy advertisement space, paying them to continue to be in the public eye, paying for their campaigns, and the advertisements for their campaigns. Get them to reveal things that will cause these audiences to withhold their funds and support. Somebody had gotten Newt Gingrich back in the day. Gosh, and others. If somebody could have gotten him to say, well, we really don't really care about whites. We really don't care about whites. This isn't about white people. This is about America. Half the people that supported him would have been like, we're being victimized. And if you're not going to even say, I mean, it's hard then. You really would have to be a sorry SOB to say, well, yeah, he said specifically that he doesn't care about white people, but he really does. I mean, come on. Melody Dawn is here. Hello to you. Southern Bloom, welcome and great to see you. Oh my God, Archangel, that is funny. He wrote about Buddy Brown. He clearly looks like he works hard on his boyfriend's laundry. That's funny. Amma is here. Great to see you. The great Fornal is in the house. Rick is here. Hello and welcome. All right, let me see if I missed any up here. Oh my gosh. Based in Red Pill says about Buddy Brown that daddy, because he said, we have our daddy's, what was it, belt? He said, daddy must be the name of his lover. I bet it is. Piers Taylor is here, and so is Vincent. The patriarchy strikes back. Hello. Western Sunrise. Hey, great. Naterific is here as well. We got both Nates. When you got both Nates, it's like having the sun and the moon in the sky at the same time. It's like a wonder to behold. Great to see the both of you. MOC is here. Great to see you. And said about something, maybe it was something that I said, wrote, I did not think about it like that. And the scratching chin emoji. You can tell me with a follow-up, tag me if it was something different. Roger's asking about where did the rugged individualism trope come from? Well, I genetically or biospiritually, it appears to be, in my opinion, more pronounced in Western kind. So it's something that we are. It's like now today it's a proclivity, in my opinion. It used to be a natural and healthful attribute of Western kind, because we would have to build on our own, and then in its aggregate, everybody actually building on their own instead of like feeding at the same water source together, because we were just coming together as a group, like kind of like bird, for example, cardinals, beautiful bird. State bird of Virginia as well. They, in the summer, the male cardinals, they won't tolerate each other hardly for a second. You come into one cardinal's territory and he is zipping right after you, if you're a cardinal, to chase you out. That's his territory. But in the winter, when it's harder to find food, they'll group together so that if one sees food and they see the one that sees food, they suddenly become tolerant of each other, even though they know, to whatever degree they're capable, don't anthropomorphize them, that they're thieving ultimately from the others in the group, and they understand that the others in the group will be thieving from them. But it obviously, for us, creating on our own, growing on our own, building on our own, in its aggregate, created a strength that, not in and of itself, there were other things that also, I guess, how can I say this? The ears against the door lend itself to what we create, i.e. Western civilization. So in an environment where it's all us, that can be beneficial, a la the early United States. White people going out and making and growing and building and creating and discovering and etc. But as you can see, and I gave the analogy, and I think we really have to, I don't know, I might try to do something more with this, because the American football analogy, for several different reasons, can be really powerful, and especially for people. I mean, this guy's, he's obviously a big fan of, what was his name? The black, non-white athlete, football player, whatever it was, doesn't matter. Obviously a sports ball fan, and a lot of his audience will be as well. But the analogy of a football team where everybody was proud of the team, like let's say it was, you pick any football team, say it's Pittsburgh Steelers. Could you imagine all of the stands are chanting Steelers, and the team is far there? They could not be more proud of being a Steeler football player. And but then it was really only an illusion, because then when a competitive team showed up in their house, that team played as a team, and the Steelers said, oh no, we're not going to do it. We're going to play as individuals. I don't care what the guard would say. I don't care what the tackle does. I'm going to do my thing that makes me look good. Quarterback does the same thing. I mean, it'd be a massacre. That's what happened to the white race in America and Canada and elsewhere. It was a total massacre. You had a great example of it. I mean, you see it right now with Donald Trump. Why isn't Donald Trump, let me rephrase this. Why aren't we seeing scores of powerful white people coming to the aid of Donald Trump? Why isn't Donald Trump using his wealth to find brilliant, I mean, genuinely brilliant, not just another high IQ'd hot woman with great tits? I mean, that's all this guy does, for God's sake. I hire women. I hire the best women. Well, that's the problem. That's the problem. Even if a woman has in my opinion, has a high IQ, she still has female instinct. She's still looking right in front of her for the needs of children age 1 minute to 7 to 10 years. That does not serve you in combat, metaphorical, with anti-whites, with vicious anti-white males. It's obviously a male psychological warfare that is destroying us, is much more masculine. So why isn't Donald Trump reaching out into the world and finding brilliant, truly brilliant people? Not just somebody that did good at Yale. I mean, how many people that did good at Yale can't even identify somebody in their midst who has a program that works? Not just somebody that did good at Harvard, not just somebody, I mean, to do good, it's kind of an open secret, or not just kind of, it is an open secret, that the biggest universities give out passing grades. Because giving out passing grades for the title of the university on your degree has made these universities multi-billionaire institutions. Multi-billions, billions and scores of billions. A lot of people don't know that. So why isn't he doing that? Why aren't other whites coming to him with power? And why isn't he filtering through a bunch of whites? Well, he's not reaching out looking for genius and aggressive white males throughout the economic realm, and whether or not they went to Harvard, because he's an individual. He's going to be this lone ranger conqueror. And why aren't scores and scores of other very powerful white people coming to his aid? Same reason. Because they're going to be these rugged, rabid individualists. It's really rabid. We should call it rabid because it's a disease. So what happened was I think it's instinctual for us to a degree, but anti-whitism has magnified it, as of course it would. That's what every psychological warfare endeavor does. You find something in the host population that you want to undermine, destroy, whatever it is. You find something in that host population that, well, this is a negative thing for them, so let's make it more widespread. This is a positive thing for them, but if we take it to an extreme, it becomes negative, so we'll push that as well. So you see this idea of it's always this individual who in anti-white narrative for a very long time. That, incidentally, for those of you who are more advanced in going free, you'll notice that meme or particular collection of meme pathogens have been drawn down because they're not as necessary anymore relative to the meme pathogen montages that now replace them, which is it's a multiracial crew dominating these evil white people. So it used to be like literally the Lone Ranger. And of course, he every now and again needed help. And where could he get that from? Non-whites. So it's like rabies. All right, let me see. Look at some of these comments with you all and continue looking at your comments. Susan of Hull's Humberside said, over the pond here. I didn't read that one, did I? No. Walmart is running a school uniform promotion with a massive billboard. So she's in the UK. With a massive billboard on entering the stores. So it's a giant billboard when you enter the store with a suspiciously healthy looking white handsome boy about 14 years of age sat firmly in a wheelchair. Do you remember when I said that? That's when she shared that information. When I was saying it's always the white little girl with the non-white little boy, or white teenage girl with a non-white boy, and sometimes two non-white boys around her. And then if they show a white little boy or teenager, he's either somehow inferior physically or in height and all of these sorts of things to the non-white actors and that they use, models. But very often and increasingly, he's handicapped, the white boy. The day that I was sharing that, then Susan writes and she says, yep, all over here in the UK, across the pond, she said, going into Walmart, huge billboard, 14-year-old boy roughly, he's handsome, and he sat in a wheelchair with leg irons on, and lo and behold, all the big screens show white girls with non-white boys fawning praise over these non-white children, dancing and twerking, and made to look hip and cool and trendy. As you say, this will be deeply ingrained into everyone's subconscious who sees it. Yeah, precisely. Thank you very much for that comment, Susan. And if you all have a comment about one of these comments that I read and you want me to know, tag me. Not going to be here for a lot longer, but I want to interact with you all while we are together. Let's see if I missed anybody yet. The Great Reptile writes this, Jason, you are on fire. Many other members of the white positive sphere have seemed to plateau, producing less and less valuable content. But week after week, these streams continue to grow more powerful. Just last week, I suggested a new friend purchase and take up the practice of Go Free. And after privately watching a single stream, they proclaimed their entire worldview was abruptly inverted. This is awesome. It was as if the entire anti-white narrative was becoming visible. I've since been informed they immediately ordered a copy of Go Free. And, he writes, they will be introducing the practice and concepts to their spouse and family. The individual victories are compounding, my brother. Something big, all caps, is happening. It is. It really is. And God bless Reptile. Isn't he awesome? What a champ. And serves, and who knows what good that's going to end up doing for that family. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, good brother. What a glorious thing. That's what glory is today. That is what glory is today. Reptile is a brilliant man. He's an advocate for white well-being. He is implementing the Go Free method in his life. His whole family is. He's going out into the world. The wife is going out into the world, and they're sharing these concepts that invert the anti-white narrative, that defeat the anti-white narrative. That is heroic. That's what being a man and woman of the West looks like. Not like Buddy Brown. Not talking about, you could drop 10,000 nuclear bombs on us and we'll just survive it. You pinch off our hose, we'll just reroute it. Just like Randy Weaver did. Bark Eater says the U.S. military is also doing this. They are calling it talent management. Okay, so he's talking about, we did the show on how in the UK, the Royal Air Force, the RAF, has said, and you can look into this for yourself, and there was a woman who quit. She retired in protest, and that's the dumbest thing to do. You stay in power and you use it for white well-being. But she said that's what's going on there, and the thing that's going on that she claimed, and that many people are claiming, and the RAF won't say when questioned in the story that I read, would not say, disavow, was that they're not taking white males, just females and non-whites into the Royal Air Force. Bark Eater says U.S. military is doing the exact same thing. They call it, quote, talent management. Yeah. That's been happening for a very long time, ever since our fathers and mothers and grandfathers and grandmothers. They've had these euphemistic ways to victimize Western kind. Increasingly, they won't use them. Just like at that school district where they said, well, when we're going to have layoffs, white people are going to go. Well, no, they did not. They used the euphemism there as well. Marginalized communities will not be dismissed. But at the museum in Chicago, they said the white people have got to go. As I recall, look it up for yourself. He goes on to write, young men, he's talking to anybody who reads what he has to say, don't join the military. Go to a trade school. Thank you for that, brother. Tyler is here. Hello. Promethean Epoch writes, one nefarious MP I've been seeing a lot of lately is, quote, it's not about guilting white people. It's about teaching them to have empathy for what their ancestors did. Oh, yes. Yes. So it's about white guilting us. And for things that we didn't do. Yeah. So in every case where you're presented with these variations on euphemisms on white guilting, you can just say, if it's an anti-white conclusion, I reject it. And then you can toss in the thing like I use. If a non-white person today cannot be punished for what their brother did today, then you can't punish all of Western. You can't victimize all of Western. You can't victimize. And that's what I do and have done is I would say to people like this, why do you think that a white baby in the womb or a white baby in the stroller needs to be victimized? I mean, tell me the reasons why the white baby in the stroller needs to be. And I've had them say things like, well, no, it's just getting them to like accept. Well, how does that manifest? It never ends. He can't apologize. He or she can't apologize and make amends for something he never did. The 9 words. And by the way, who's saying that recently? That the 9 words needs to replace the 14 words. They're right, whoever that is. Can anybody recite the 9 words? Spike is here, and he asks me, what do you think about Tom McDonald, or have you heard of him? Spike, tag me again. It's not immediately coming to mind, but it seems vaguely familiar, the name. So please tag me again and give me just a tiny bit more information, and then it might light it up for me. I think I know, but yeah, give me some more info. In reality, says Jason's pretty damn based. I am the most based anybody ever gets. I am so based. I am the crust of the earth upon which all else is based. Azimuth Clark is here. Great to see you, brother. Is that Zimph? It just went by on the screen. Of age homegirl. Okay, hello. Remember, please tag me as no white guilt. Tom says, new to the sphere and happy to be here. Amen. Great to have you. Tom, we have wonderful people here. It's very different than everywhere else you've gone. There are good people all over, well, most places. But we are actually improving our lives. We are actually becoming more than we were, stronger, physically, mentally, and spiritually. And that is no infomercial. People will tell you it's happening. You will see it happening as you show up. You can actually see the arc of people. They show up and they're like, this might be you, Tom, what I'm talking about right now. You might say, hey, I'm new. I'm glad to be here. And then 6 months from now, after implementing the Go Free method in your life, you'll say, I got a promotion I would have never had before because I didn't know how the system worked. Now I understand things much clearer because internally I was holding myself back. And people want to know, I love to share this, and it's short, so it's easy. If you want to know whether or not you are far less in every single way than you could be, just imagine any non-white group of children being told over the course of their lives that the very essence of their being is evil, and that the only way they can be legitimate is if they hold themselves back and victimize their group, or allow the victimization of their group. And you wonder, non-white child growing up learning that, would they achieve their potential as adults? Would they be as smart as they could have been? Will they be as physically strong as they could have been? Would they have tried as hard? Wouldn't they view their successes to some degree as celebratory, but also an aggrievement? There's so many things. I mean, if you're told, for example, they go after white people all the time, and this is one of the things that peer-to-peer communication has also almost put to bed, this meme pathogen that was omnipresent before the peer-to-peer communication across the internet, that white people can't dance. And white people would say, well, what do you mean? Look at ballet, look at all of the hundreds of forms of dance that white people have. What do you mean? But it was just hit on us all the time. And it got to the point where if white people were dancing at a bar, other white people would say, oh, this is just terrible dancing in here. Look at, they're terrible. Because they had so absorbed this victimization that it was just a fact. Now you go on like Instagram, you go on Facebook or whatever, and you see these white people that not only are doing the dances that we created, masterfully, but also dances they're popularized by other races masterfully. But that's the power, Tom. And by treating yourself for the mean pathogens, the poisonous ideas that you've been infected with, and it's a very straightforward thing. You find it in the Go Free method. You begin to release and tap into some of that latent ability. We'll never get to what we could have been. Just like I've likened before, an eagle, if it's raised from being a chick with its wings fettered to its side, and it's just trotting along the dust of the earth with the other flightless birds, if in its dotage you suddenly untie or you loosen the knots, it's not like it's going to be able to soar through the heavens, but it might be able to get off the ground. Sluggo says, I've never heard the word retrodict used before. You, sir, are a gentleman and a scholar! Exclamation point. Thank you. Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. We have Amma, coming from Amma. She's here with us. She said at, and then I redacted who she was speaking to. She says, me, I'm on the verge of fearlessness. I wasn't afraid when I used to tell everyone everything I knew. Then I realized what I don't know is the remedy. We have to be free, all caps, of this evil. I parenthetically wrote it as evil. We need a way of thinking and speaking that is productive to white well-being. Jason Köhne has mastered that. This is why we support him and study him. This is also why this stream took place. Thank you so much, Amma. That's a beautiful testimonial to share. You know, Tom is here. He was just hearing that. So think of the power. This is another comment actually from Reptile. He says, for America to continue, it must first exist within ourselves. We must become the Westman its existence requires. This is really brilliant. Only then can our biospirit be projected into a healthy manifestation. Exactly. And there's only one way to do that. All caps. Go free. So Reptile is, as I said, it's a brilliant person. And that right there was a brilliant insight. 1 second. Jennifer writes here, Tucker Carlson did a segment 2 years ago about similar practices in hiring and firing with air traffic controllers and the impact it was beginning to have. He had on a whistleblower who exposed them. With the degradation of quality of pilots and air traffic controllers, this doesn't bode well for anyone. Why don't these nitwits ever consider the downstream consequences of their decision? I'm jumping right there, Jennifer. Great comment. Thank you so much for jumping into the threads and sharing your thoughts with everybody. And I'd like more people to do this. They don't want better. This is the thing, Jennifer. As you learn, as you go free, you implement this method, you'll discover they don't want safer air travel. They don't want more efficient air travel. What they want, now they might tell you, because they need a pretext, that it's going to be more efficient or fairer or whatever. But what they want to do is victimize white people. How do you victimize them in this case? Well, if white people want to be air traffic controllers, you prevent them from being air traffic controllers to whatever degree that the white population will tolerate. If white people want to be air traffic controllers or pilots or mechanics on the airplanes, you prevent them from doing it to whatever degree the population will tolerate. That's you victimizing them. Then when you victimize them, you need collateral beneficiaries. Who are these jobs going to go to? If we deny white people, well, then they go out and they find them and they talk about these different victim groups, which are really the privileged groups. She continues, sure, they'll still fly in their private jets with highly trained pilots, but they're just as vulnerable on the ground to crashing planes. P.S. Our medical schools just lowered the standards for minority, so non-white students, she says here, including their grades required to maintain during medical school. Wow. So I don't know where Jennifer is, but she's from firsthand experience sharing this with us. She says, again, the short-sighted view of these deciding these regulations is astounding. They're assuming that they will never be in a vehicle accident requiring them to go to a hospital, which any of these doctors will be working at, the ERs, or that a loved one will need their services and they will be stuck with these subpar doctors. They cannot fathom that they would ever fall victim to their own poor policies. Well, they're not thinking that far, Jennifer. That's the thing. They're thinking about right now. How do we victimize white people right now? That's where their minds are. What you are doing is you are obviously a bright woman, and you're thinking, what are going to be the consequences of these decisions? And then you're making a common mistake, and that is to project yourself, your good intentions, your intelligence into your victimizer. And it truly is akin to thinking something good of your pedophile victimizer as a child. You know, he or she is just trying to keep me safe and can't stop him or herself or whatever. So thank you very much for that comment. Tree Godfather says hello to No White Guilt. A big hello to you. Birdie Bassett says a good evening to me. A good evening to you. Art Acrobats was asking who I was talking about. I'm guessing you were wondering about Buddy Brown. And it looks like Franklin may have answered you. Thank you for that, champion. Shaggy is with us. Hello to you. Okay. Spike, and that's okay. That's who I thought it was. Says McDonald, T. McDonald is tattooed rapper who raps straight, he's a rapper, straight white male and white privileged sarcastically. So that's what he calls himself. Well, what do I think of him? He's obviously got a lot of talent. He has also obviously white flighted into what he's done to himself. Right. He might say now, I always wanted to have face tattoos and I always wanted to, do these different things to myself. But of course, that's self-serving. There's no way, as a youth, he said, I want to look like that. So that was white flight. He was trying to get away from, because he was victimized like all of us. So he's got great talent. He makes great rap. The problem is that with every one of his raps, it's all poison because he's within the anti-white narrative. Now, if he came out of the anti-white narrative, and how do you do that? It is merely a focus on the concepts that you use. Like to say that he has white privilege, even as a joke, this is what the victim does, because the victim has no power. All the victim can do is be ironic. And a position of weakness is never inspiring. A position of weakness isn't resistance. He justifies, by using the terminology of anti-whitism, he legitimizes the ideology of anti-whitism. Therefore, even if he makes a point using their terminology, and this is what happens in all of your lives when you're not going free. All the good folk who are watching Buddy Brown, this is what happens in all their lives. They can make a point within the anti-white narrative, and the very next moment, they're on their heels, asking for a little bit of ground from the anti-whites. That, likening to what I was just talking about with Jennifer, that's like saying to your persecutor, pedophile, that let's make it a few minutes less this time. Can we just make it a few minutes less? I will make you a hamburger if you'll make this a few minutes less. You cannot overturn the victimization that way. So it would be great if he really wanted, and he seems like he wants to seriously be a rebel against this system, but he can't say things like, you know what, actually what I'm going to do is I'm not going to give him any specific positions instead, because then that'll become the focus of what I said about him. Instead, what I'm going to say is he needs to stop immediately using the lexicon of anti-whitism and adopt, even if he doesn't implement the Go Free method in his life. And so where you can help is if you are a fan of his, maybe when he sees your name show up, he reads your posts, maybe he responds to you from time to time. What you can do to make a big difference in the world is to use like the 5 key concepts in your communications with him. Talk about the anti-white narrative and how it is victimizing Western kind. I guarantee you, since he's this musician and he's always looking for new words to spin into his music instead of the same old, just repetitive stuff, the odds of him picking it up are better than not. So thank you for that question. Car Droid says, was it you earlier on a live stream with Active Patriot from Britain? No, I'm not. I don't even know who Active Patriot is. But thank you for the question. Oh, Franklin's answering Car Droid. It looks like Franklin said, no, someone from America called No White Guilt was on a live stream with Active Patriot from Britain, just wondering if it was, this is Car Droid saying this to Franklin, just wondering if it was this guy. So I'm the only person who has been used the moniker No White Guilt for years and years and years, since before I was on the Hill in 2001, when I worked in the Nerve Center for the conservative movement. I've written 5 books. I've created thousands and thousands of hours of video, speeches, etc. And I've used the moniker No White Guilt, which I encourage everybody to use in their marketing materials, because it's one of the most powerful things that we can say to an anti-white, because it goes right to the point, the fulcrum. They need you to take down your defenses. They can't victimize us without us taking down our defenses. Increasingly they can, but for a very long time they couldn't. So they had to convince you that you had to take your defenses down. And the biggest chunk of doing that to white people was white guilting us. So when you say, I'm not going to let you white guilt me, you can see the look on anti-whites' faces. They immediately know that you've gone to the crux of the issue. So who was what kind of things was this person saying who was calling himself No White Guilt? Car Droid. And maybe Franklin's already found out all about it and what's going on. But that is an imitator, probably a me-not, somebody who's jealous of me and who's trying to smear me, or just attempting maybe to usurp the No White Guilt moniker, which would be absurd. Pearl Lady says, great stream, Jason. I agree with you 100% about Liz Cheney and the state of the Republican Party. Beyond disgraceful. I think what you said before about people wanting to follow a leader, even men, is very astute. Western kind need men like you as our leaders. I will definitely support any campaign of yours for office in the future. You have all of the good qualities of a leader: passion, courage, well-spoken, intelligence, and gumption. So many of our men now are feckless and weak. God bless you, Pearl Lady. Who doesn't love Pearl Lady? That's quite an endorsement. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, especially in this day and age where our population just can't identify, the vast majority of our population can't identify a quality man to follow. I mean, for God's sakes, they're picking women to follow. I mean, look at, you have this Nikki Fuentes movement who bash the hell out of women, hate on women, and supposedly care about the white race. And that's far before where they are today, which is much, much different. And then as soon as an Asian woman shows up, they fall on their knees. Could you imagine, even if we didn't have, like if anti-whites just decided they were going to go to a new planet Earth, it was better than this one, they all left tomorrow. Could you imagine the population we have today, what kind of leaders they would choose? I mean, what do you think about it? What do you think about, 1,000 plus or whatever teenage and 20-something males suddenly all celebrating as one of their leaders, an Asian woman, no matter how wonderful she might be. I'm not saying, it's no comment about her, how wonderful or bright she is or whatever, but I mean, come on. This is about the victimization of Western kind. Thank you so much, Pearl Lady. We have Azimuth Clark comment, and he's here tonight, so that's wonderful. Let me see, check entropy. Okay, nothing there. Nothing on Odyssey, no comments. Nothing on D Live. Let me check over here. Okay, that's clear too. Shaggy says, I'm from Alabama, but live in Southern California. Have met many of these TRS pool party, he puts in quotes, guys here, but I don't connect with them, he says. Very lonely here. May relocate back south. Thoughts on California? California is a magnificent state. And much of it, of course, like the rest of the country, ruined, and it's getting worse by the anti-whites. But there are still many glorious parts of the state and many heroic, wonderful brothers and sisters out there. Perhaps you could look for a GFC, Going Free Club. And depending on your location, you might be close enough to, and I don't know if it's any in person, but you could start with GFCs that are online as well as in person, or just online, and you can participate with all of them, and perhaps even find one for in-person meetups. And I know you will find there. The thing, though, Shaggy, is that it can be a Going Free Club, can be a lot of different interests. Like you could have there could be a Going Free Club of guys who get together that like playing pool. But when they get together to play pool, they're going to be talking about our victimization, and they're going to be using the concepts from the Go Free method. And they're not going to be bringing with them a host of baggage of who they think did what in the past and some other group of people and what they think should be done for the future or whatever. They're coming together and they're endeavoring to cleanse themselves of these thought diseases that are undermining them, talking about ways to get it to their friends and family and stranger, and talking about the successes the personal successes that they're having. So it's a totally different environment from what you would have encountered before. Pure Aussie Gold is with us. That's a cool name. Jimmy is here. Great to see you all. Let's read Azimuth Clark because I know he's here. He says, let's give Jason Köhne some raucous emojis and 07s for that performance on I, Hypocrite last night. So this obviously occurred a day after I appeared with I, Hypocrite, which was a wonderful conversation. He seems like a really great guy. Azimuth Clark goes on to say, brother, you made us all proud. I really thank you for that. When I read that, I really appreciated it. It spoke right to my heart. And that's what I tell folks, with our content creators, folks who are out there putting themselves, especially their face and all, words like this are very meaningful and they go a really long way. So he said, brother, you made us all proud. You were on point, concise, and informative. I, Hypocrite, was really taking it all in. Many people in the chat were really connecting with our message. It was amazing. Also, how about this community? 07. I saw many of us sharing the lexicon, sharing testimonials. I saw us correcting his audience when it comes to using anti-white terms. It was awesome. And I talked about that, if you remember, that first going free after celebrating that organic teamwork of people focused on the white race, focused on Western kind, and putting it into the victimization that we are experiencing. You see how the team comes together. A team just materializes rather than, and it's an actual team, people working together like pistons in an engine, rather than when your focus is on another group and you're hating on this group or hating on that group. You have these individuals. They may act in concert, but they're not a team because there's no connection there. It's beyond the hatred of some other group of people, and hatred of some other group of people or peoples is nothing that binds. Is that a lot of people will look to periods in history and they erroneously, it's called misattribution, and they will say, oh, it's hatred of this group that united. You could not be more wrong. But then again, maybe that's why I blew up the IQ test and they didn't. Unfortunately, our population doesn't know how to select quality leadership. He goes on to say, we came out of there looking like we have the moral high ground. None of us played the villain. People from this chat were asking us questions and everybody was on point. All I could think is this is what winning feels like. Tom, are you listening? And who was the other gentleman who's new? What was his name? It'll come back to me in a minute. Are you listening to this? This is what winning feels like. Some troll in the chat says something dumb. We had multiple people from the community have our backs. I love this community. Exclamation point. Thank you. Thank you, Azimuth Clark. This community is worthy of love because people like you are in it, because you specifically are in this community. I know you act out of love. I know you care about our people. I know you're focused on putting an end to our victimization. That's why we are a community that loving, heroic people want to be a part of, that loving, heroic people love. So thank you. God bless you. J.M. Johnson says here, when I first, I guess, heard of the libertarians, I was in college. I heard a lecture and said to myself, hell no, these people are liberals, which we don't use the name, just so for the folks who are new, you never give, in the Go Free method, you never give your victimizer the name of their taking, and you never take the name of their giving. It's psychological warfare, anti-whitism. You never give them the name that they take, and you never take the name that they give. So they want to call themselves woke. Who gives them? I'd never say that. I'll never call them woke. I'll never call them woke brigade. And some other day we could talk about why that's harmful for you and powerful for them. It doesn't matter how hardcore consciously you're like, it's really funny to be a wokester. It doesn't matter. So we wouldn't say that here. But J.M. Johnson is if you're going to use it like this, then you can use quotes around it. But these people are, I guess, or he's thinking that's what it was. He's thinking back then. It was before he started going free. I get it. So back then he's thinking these people are liberals that want to keep their money by being against social programs, but they are open to endless immigration and companies taking taking jobs overseas, created competition for lower income. So this comment, when I read this, it was actually just totally brilliant. It summed up libertarianism so perfectly. These are actually just there are libertarians who come away from that, who come into the white positive sphere and start going free. And a lot of them still hold on to like their ideas about economy and government, though they're now mitigated, though they now take a second seat to the well-being of Western kind. Because the flesh that thinks these things is more important than the things that were thought, right? But when you're talking about your average libertarian, you're talking about an anti-white who just wants to keep all their money. That's really what it is. J.M. Johnson was pinpoint accuracy. Talk about a laser-guided missile. That's exactly what it is. They're just anti-whites who want to keep all their dough. All right, let me see what you all are saying. Maybe we found out some more info about this guy who's calling himself No White Guilt on a British show from I guess it was the U.S. Escape here. Great to see you, brother. Says, can you talk about the difference when an anti-white is being anti-white or anti-Western? Can you talk about the difference? Well, I'd like to ask you, what do you think the difference is? And let me say, there's going to be a character limit, and I guess the character limit is larger on the question widget on Entropy, but you don't have to go over there. It would just might free it up for you a little bit. But you could do it right here in this live chat. Tag me each time, though, so that I can see what you're writing. I'll go up to the top. I'll come down. But are you telling me that you think that there's a difference between being anti-white and anti-Western? And then I want to see where you're coming from to be able to answer that question. I appreciate it. Glad to have you here. I'm sure there are other folks out there that have the same question. Shaggy Bro says, thank you, my dude. I think that the people you described are my kind of people. Well, that's awesome, man. You're going to have a great time then. And you'll be like these folks. You'll just get better and better. There's nothing like it anywhere in the white sympathetic sphere. And it is the substance that these late night TV commercial, promotional, they'll read you some Aesop fables into your 6-figure job nonsense. We have the substance here. Why is it that you don't go anywhere with a self-help guru? Because the self-help guru doesn't address what has crippled you. Anti-whiteism has crippled you in your own mind. The first person you argue with about anything going on in the world that's socio-political is yourself, because you're poisoned with anti-white ideas. Even though consciously you can, just like consciously you can say you don't know how to drive a car, and yet you still know how to drive a car. So you're poisoned with these. And then furthermore, your workplace, the bank, everywhere is anti-white. How are you going to navigate that without knowing? And you'll find that once you begin to address these poisonous ideas holding you back, you'll begin to release a little bit more and a little bit more of your potential. And then you go to your job and then you'll understand, I get what's going on with my boss and this dynamic here and this potential woman that might be whatever. And then you'll be able to plot an intelligent course, and you might very well end up like some of the folks who have shared testimonials in live chats about how they got promotions that they never would have had. Who was it? I can't remember his name right now. He had like 3 promotions in 3 years after starting the Go Free method. So these folks who are like self-help gurus, they'll tell you, they'll get you fired up with Aesop, repackaged Aesop fables. But that's like telling a kid that he can dunk a basketball if he does squats every day and high weight row, low rep every third day. I'm just throwing some together from actual knowledge of working out. A heavy set every week. Really work on the calves too, because of how much extra leap that'll give him. And not only does he have, so you get all like this info and he gets you real excited, the self-help guru, showing you images of guys flying through the air and dunking the ball and spinning around and dunking the ball. And you can do it too. You can do it. Not only is this kid that he's talking to doesn't have any white, fast, or super fast twitch muscle. Maybe it's all just red muscle fiber. So he's never going to be able to jump high no matter what workouts he does. But he's actually in a wheelchair. That's the reality of anti-whitism in your world. Self-help gurus talking about all of these great things you can do, but you're in a wheelchair. You just hike to the top of this mountain, but you're in a wheelchair. You've got to address the fact that you're in a wheelchair. Fortunately, we can remedy some of the issue over the course of our lives. Some people will be able to do more, some people a little less. It's just the way it is. But hope that you are able to go to the stars. The great Victorian time traveler says, Buddy Brown, he is a clown. He makes folks smile, but upside down. I love Victorian time traveler. That is great. Buddy Brown, he is a clown. He makes folks smile, but upside down. Donning Armour is here. Great to see you, brother. A Promethean hails to everyone. All right, I don't think I missed anybody else there. So let's see what else we have here. We have Boar Hollow. Boar Hollow says they are removing white people from everywhere they can. It's taking place in every white nation on earth. By the way, let me just ask really quickly. Was Semiagog banned from Twitter? Or what's going on? I was driving. I only had like a second to see, and I haven't had a chance to go back. Oliver. Or was he just suspended for a time, or what was it? I saw a quick read. Like I said, I was driving, and the person that had tweeted it said that he was obviously joking, but Twitter took it literally because he said like white people are not allowed at work. White people shouldn't be allowed to work, or something. I can't remember exactly how it was phrased. They shouldn't be allowed to get promotions. They shouldn't be allowed. And so that's why, for example, I've talked to you all before, and I've said the anti-whites at YouTube, Twitter, elsewhere, if you say something against the whole group of the white race, that's a group accusation, it's whatever it is, that specifically fits their rules. Now, they don't apply the rules when it comes to, at least by way of our observation, to anti-whites saying that. But if your account isn't anti-white and then you've crossed the line with one of their rules, they'll use that as a justification to victimize you. So it sounds like maybe that's what happened. And Semiagog is awesome. And you know that we love him here. So if that happened, I really hope it's just a brief suspension rather than a shutting the account completely down. They are removing white people from everywhere that they can. It's taking place in every white nation on earth. And it's honestly unreal, the times we live in. It really is unreal. It's surreal. It's like we're in a dream, a horrible nightmare, that these things could actually be happening. But it's good in a way, because Boar Hollow has some more to say here. But the way that it's good is that there is, because we live in Western civilization, we think that the things that we see happen in other countries around the world can't happen here. We think there's always a good excuse. It's the right thing will happen in the end. It might be a little unfair, it might be, but like horribly corrupt, horribly, that doesn't happen here. Well, it does. And the fact that it's becoming so salient is ultimately good, because it will jar our brothers and sisters. But getting bad is not better unless they have the go free method. Getting bad is just bad without the psychological defense to the psychological warfare waged against us. You want an answer to that? You want to know if I'm right? Just look to our once great country called South Africa. He continues, my father and my grandfathers went off to fight in NAM and WW2 for this ? White people must group up and return to the very, very, very large loving families with many, many, many traditional white children that our ancestors always viewed as job one. I agree with you there. Having children, extremely important, but traditional is not going to cut it. They need to be inoculated against the psychological warfare that is anti-whitism. We have that inoculation. It's called the go free method. How do I know that traditional families don't cut it? They already didn't. In much better times, where a large traditional family was surrounded by seas of large traditional white families, and anti-whitism still beat it. So you can't go back to something, or it just makes no sense to go back to something that already has failed in and of itself. You need to inoculate those children. Looks like we have a financial gift from a great guy, Piers Taylor, over here on Entropy. Thank you, good sir. $5 hopping dollars from down there in Australia. He says, hey, Jason, I dropped a link to a video game trailer in your Twitter DM. It's only 3 minutes long, but it exemplifies the extreme level of anti-whitism infesting video games nowadays. P.S. I liked the iHypocrite interview too. Well, thank you so much. That's how powerful the way I was with iHypocrite was how you all can be. Every single one of you. It's just a matter of going free over time, implementing these strategies, and you'll get stronger and stronger and stronger. Yeah, I'll take a look at that video trailer. For some reason, the videos, if it has 3D in it, a video of the game doesn't seem to bother me like the game moving through the 3D. It definitely has its light patterns. Find it objectionable. It gives me a headache. But I'll check it out. I've just heard from so many gamers about how anti-white the gaming has become. Once again, that's good, because the arts and video games has been a refuge for white people for a very long time. So it's good that the anti-whites have sniffed it out and they're ruining it. I'm sorry to say, I know you love to play the video games, but it's going to force our people to become healthy or die. The great Ardent White writes here, horrifically, this goes very, very deep. Not just the little white boys seeing themselves portrayed as villains everywhere, but their mothers too. I actually thought that my young sons were more hyper and rambunctious than some of my friends' non-white children because they are white. This is before she started going free, folks. People would actually agree and reinforce this idea. I was reluctant to take and post pictures of them where I felt that they looked too white, because I was embarrassed for them for being so white. So how fair their skin was. This is an unspeakable evil visited upon our race. And even if you're a white person and you're like at the other end of the spectrum, your skin's a little bit more olive or what have you, this has to strike you as demonic as all hell, because it is. Fair white skin is absolutely stunning. And we live in this society today that has convinced this good woman who's now going free, thank the good Lords. Imagine what that's going to do for her little boys. the different life they're leading now. My God. That act alone has, who knows how much, her starting to go free, who knows the ramifications of that. It's going to be for their lives and then everybody they end up touching. But to have this as the norm in our societies, where people think that white skin is ugly and embarrassing, is sick as all hell. She goes on, she had a broken heart emojis and crying emoji and then an angry emoji. She says, I hope you save all of your testimonials, Jason, compiled in a book one day for all of our people to forever remember everything we have had to overcome during this age. Wow. Thank you so much for that, sister. It's truly something. And you have to ask yourself, especially the new folks, you have to ask yourself, why wasn't I told all about this community where people are sharing these testimonials? This doesn't happen anywhere else. People are not getting better and stronger and more intelligent and more creative and more artistic and more accomplished and more successful, staying away from jail and beating every anti-white they have a conversation with from the moral high ground, which is the only place that you can actually beat them in a conversation. Saying to an anti-white that you are, and then the anti-white slur, racist, and F them is not winning. That's you looking like a shithead and losing the conversation. And everybody observing it, except the other beer-swilling fools in the county lockup, will agree that you looked like an idiot and lost. Society agrees, and you know it, because you couldn't go on a street corner and shout that shit. This is where success, love, hope, and happiness, the healthy kind of hope, is working for us. And most importantly, saving lives. We're going into our personal relationships, our work relationships. We're using these key concepts, and it's changing the societal conversation. We have a comment from the great Nathaniel Nelson, and he was with us. He might still be with us. Who's over there at D Live? No W Guilt's over there. Hello to you. Is that Mav Rent? And is that Scorda? Triangular something or other. Hello to all of you. Okay, they're blank. We come back here. If you have a question or comment, please make it. We are one comment here away from wrapping up. All right, we have the great Slots himself, another extraordinary mind in service to white well-being, and really grateful for all of his magnificent service to white well-being, getting into the trenches with people, having it out, changing minds. He financially gifts here $1. God bless you, Slots. And he says, 3 promos was me. Also got a transfer promo again. The 3 promos. Can you email me? 3 promos was me. I also got a transfer promo again. Transfer plus promo. Email me, brother, so I can see. Thank you so much. He's also made videos. He's a philosopher. So maybe that was you talking about a video there. Thank you so much, brother. All right, let me see what's being said over here. We're going to be back tomorrow for our regular Going Free stream. Boy, we here are 3 hours. Didn't think it would be together that long. But I always have great stamina. Montana Kid is here. First Last is here. He says, I'm here, brother. God bless you. Oh, do we have a couple Victorian time travelers? How many lines has he made now? Oh boy. Hey, look, there's Mrs. Jess Horse. Great to see you. Montana Kid says, we need no white guilt in Germany, so my sister will be free. Hey, start using the 5 key concepts with her in just regular conversation. Get her to start using those, and then she begins slowly going from the anti-white narrative into ours, where we are the heroes. And then at that point, once she starts to speak like that and to think like that, then you could introduce her to me in this community and the Go Free method. We want to hear about those successes. Wing It is here. Great to see you. Elaine Sabatino. She says, hail, Jason and family. Sorry I missed this live. Looking forward to the replay. All right, let me see. 0022 says Promethean hails. Big Promethean hails to you. Promethean Epoch says here, going free helped me put my focus back into my career rather than binge watching Ant-Nat podcasts and blowing my money in order to fill up my fashy bookshelf. That is an awesome testimonial. That is so fantastic. God bless you, Promethean Epoch. What a champion. This guy started going free and has just been a success, hand over fist, one thing after the other. And here he is. Going free helped me put my focus back into my career rather than binge watching Ant-Nat. That's antique nationalist. And that's what it refers to. Podcast and blowing my money in order to fill up my fashy bookshelf. That is what it is, folks. Just so many years now. I'm so tired of this. I got so tired of this, where I would watch good people. They would get involved. They would fall into this vein of thought. And then the substance of it was doom documenting all that, especially one group of another race was doing, and then doom dissecting that whole other race, and then buying book after book after book so that you could have all the titles on your bookshelf, and then that made you like a valuable. How is that helping our race, right? So Promethean Epoch realized this is doing nothing. I'm not doing anything with my life. In fact, Promethean Epoch will, I'm sure, be willing to say, you start repeating the things that these different groups tell you and you read in their books, and you don't get raises, promotions, and find a quality mate and all. No, everything goes to shit. Everything goes to shit. And then these folks will say, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. And if everything's not going to shit in your life, if it's not all falling apart, and then by the way, if it's falling apart, it's the fault of that other group over there, that other group of human beings. It's not your fault that you went to work and said that some major historical event that everyone else believes happened and it's the most monstrous thing on planet Earth. It's not your fault that you went there and said that never happened, as though nothing was going to happen to you. No, that was your fault. It's interesting that so many of these folks, they take no responsibility. And maybe that's why so many of them are like the bicycle where they're pedaling with no chain. They take no personal responsibility for their actions, for the things they say. It's always some other group's fault. That's why I lost my job. That's why my wife left me. That's why my children won't talk to me anymore. It's that damn other group over there. Okay? No agency. How far can you go as we hit midnight How far can you go in the world if you don't have any agency? What are you going to build? What are you going to make? What's going to be lasting in the world if you don't have agency? Because there can always be an excuse that's somebody else's fault. And now let me say this. There is already so much out there that anti-whitism creates bulwarks for us to have to deal with, that you don't have to add more to it to give yourself a reason to be a loser. You have to find a way, and fortunately, the Go Free method is the way. Victorian Time Traveler comes back about Buddy Brown. He drives around in golden trucks despite the fact his music sucks. Oh my God. He could write poetry in the blink of an eye. Nancy Drew says, Jason's got a point there. Promethean Epoch, Fernell is working on a white positive video game. Yes, he is. That's really awesome. It's going to be epic. Victorian Time Traveler, he rides his horse, who always bucks, as does his wife. He never... That's good. That's good. All right. Let me read this last comment here and see if there's anything else, and we're going to wrap it up. 5 p.m. today. Now it is Sunday, Eastern Time, U.S. 5 p.m. We'll be back for our gathering. It's going to be truly epic. Monday is the Dragon Lords, Yiz and Fernol. And then Tuesday, Jason goes political at 7 p.m. But Sunday, 5 p.m., Nathaniel Nelson writes here, personally, brother, I think these reviews of other content creators, we did one earlier, and their videos is an awesome way to address the creators themselves and hopefully bring them on board and also reach their audiences with the Go Free method and message. People pay attention to the responses they receive, and videos like this galvanize our community to reach out to the rank and file membership of those parallel communities. Pardon me, with a bunch of like-minded voices echoing the message, they're much more likely to take notice and take it seriously. Nathaniel Nelson is sagacious. I really like that guy, and everything he said here is pertinent and sagacious. Thank you so much. That's fantastic. Now, Buddy Brown probably is not going to come around. Thank you, Victorian Time Traveler. Now it's happening without even trying to. He's not going to come around. I don't think so. But there are others who absolutely are likely to. Buddy would have to give up his living. And I don't think he's going to do that. I think he's probably got money coming. It's odd how that happens. It's odd how when you take an angle in sociopolitics that harms white people, but it's close, it's real close, and suddenly money comes in. Suddenly you can afford that car you never could afford before, you always wanted. So I don't see that happening for Buddy Brown. Bryce says, Jason, for King Emperor, without question. That's before my promotion. First Last says, to be fair, Jason, your program has not been widely known until the last 2 years. Well, it's not even widely known now. I mean, all these big content creators in the white sympathetic sphere who should be talking about successes because they care about, ostensibly about Western kind, are crickets. Victorian Time Traveler chimes in, says, that's so true. I've never heard a positive Aunt Nat testimonial. And he was one. So he knows what he's saying. I remember there was I shouldn't share. Maybe I should share. Should I share this? Maybe I'll share it for everybody who hung out so long. There was, I'm not going to give away any names, but it's people, it's names that if I said them, and you're in the white sympathetic sphere and you've been around for at least, I don't know, how long is it now? Not a decade, but under a decade, been around for a while. There are names, these are names you would likely know, not absolutely, but likely know. Well, at least the one. So he was a violent-ish, and he did, I'm gonna have to make this so cryptic. He did a thing, and there was all this attention, and he had said that it somehow had made his life better, and he was saying this like in a contradiction, like to me, I think. I don't know for sure. I mean, he didn't like reach out to me to say this, but why else would he say that it was a benefit to him to do this thing, and ended up being charged, and it wasn't murder or anything like that. Ended up being charged and going to jail for a while, and then was released. And he then, and this is part of the reason why we've got to still keep it cryptic. Somebody in that community reached out to me and said, oh, being this way has been positive for him, because he, after or while being in prison, or maybe after prison, this girl, this good looking girl started dating him, and they moved in together. So, and I was thought, well, you're calling this a positive. How do you know? What kind of relationship is that? What kind of environment is that? What, you know, a good looking girl showing up doesn't mean it's a bed of roses. In fact, we know from the actor recently that it might be a bed of other things that smell very different than roses. But anyhow, yeah, within like I think it was over the course of a year, he was, apparently he hadn't beat her up physically yet, but it was like getting closer and closer, and just totally violent, and then finally she ended up leaving him. So that is the story of the ant-gnat. That is the story of the violent person. And like I said, when it comes to, I've had different experiences with Scandinavians up in Scandinavia who would, because of their application of ideology, political and economic, could fall under the category of antique nationalist. But they're not like the Hollywood Nazis, or what we refer to as cult Nats, who are really just slanderous, villainous, the vast majority of them. But that's the kind of life, that's what it ended up doing to him. Jail time, and that he benefited from that. He was doing something, that's what it was. He was doing something for the cause or whatever, not my cause. And so he got to go to jail for it. Okay, great. And then he got this girl that he then promptly lost. All right. Final statements, and then we're going to get out of here. No White Kill Clips here? Yeah, it's great to see you, brother. We're just leaving, but we'll be back tomorrow at 5. Nancy Drew says, I like your political streams. Another form of action for us. Yes. Well, thank you very much for sharing that with me. And Art Acrobat says, we all have experienced institutional anti-whitism in employment and education. Well, yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, the moral of, and the lesson really of this review, this ended up being review and these wonderful testimonials is that these cuckold content creators like Buddy Brown are... Oh, wait, let me read this. On D Live, it says, Battlecat wrote, Jason, some good streams like yours are not showing up on the left-hand side on D Live. Yeah, D Live censors me. They've been censoring me for a very, very long time. So these were the alt-tech media that were going to come rescue us, right? All these alt-tech platforms that were going to come and just make it all better. And I said, I know the Judas Goat thing. Thank you for mentioning that, Battlecat. So the moral of the story, and we'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m., is that cuckold content creators in the conservative Patriot movement, etc., there are various ways that they do a lot of harm to their followers, their audiences. And one of the ways that they do that harm is with this baseless bravado that they say the anti-whites can't do anything to us. Well, we'll just go live off the land. We don't need any of that. We'll just make our moonshine and sing all day and dance around in the woods, whatever it might be that they plan on doing. They don't need any of that, though. But what that ends up doing is it perpetuates this false sense of strength, this false sense of a commensurate ability to inflict injury on your victimizer. And when you feel like you're not threatened, when you feel like you can punch back and do damage, you don't do anything. And so when you want to ask, when you want to wonder, pose the question to yourself, why aren't our people doing anything? I want you to go over to Buddy Brown's channel. Don't harass him. Don't slander him. But get him to answer some questions. See you tomorrow. Roll out.